Good morning, everyone. So, me and Aaron will be discussing vaginal hysterectomy case study.
For demographic data, the name of our patient is Malayan Enana Esteron. She is a 61-year-old female patient, married and lives in Calamba, Laguna. She was admitted with a diagnosis of pelvic organ prolapse stage 4. She had no prior major surgeries, except for her hospitalization during childbirth with known pelvic floor weakening. Her chief complaint, persistent pressure and discomfort in the pelvic region on top with urinary incontinence. So the patient was diagnosed with grade 2 pelvic organ prolapse, which now progressed to stage 4. Our proposed surgery is vaginal hysterectomy, and the final diagnosis is G2P1 pelvic organ prolapse stage 4. So, for a short description, vaginal hysterectomy is a surgical procedure to remove the uterus through the vagina. It is a common and effective surgical procedure for treating various gynecological conditions. So, simply put, hysterectomy is the removal of cervix and the uterus, and it is called vaginal hysterectomy because it will be done through the vagina. So, simple description of how the procedure will go. First is the administration of anesthesia. The patient will be given general anesthesia to the spine or a spinal block to make the patient comfortable and pain-free during the surgery. Then the surgical area will be cleansed by a 7 and 10% sterile solution. Then a urinary catheter will be inserted to empty the bladder and release pressure. Then the surgeon will make an incision inside the vagina to access the uterus. So this will be done layer by layer. Then the surgeon will carefully separate the uterus from the ovaries, fallopian tubes, and surrounding tissues, clamping the blood vessels to control the bleeding. So simply put, the uterus will be separated from its surrounding tissues after accessing. Then, the uterus will be removed through the vaginal opening, and absorbable stitches will be used to control the bleeding and close all the incisions and blood vessels. So, it is known that blood loss is one of the major problems that could be encountered during surgery. So, absorbable stitches must be used to control the bleeding. So, after the surgery, the patient will be subjected to post-op care and will be monitored in the recovery room and will likely to stay in the hospital overnight. So, she will be educated to rest and avoid strenuous activities for a few weeks in order to recover. The surgical position that will be used in a vaginal hysterectomy is lithotomy position. So here are the following nursing responsibilities for lithotomy position. First is assist in proper positioning of the patient, ensuring that hips are at the edge of the table for optimal access. This is done for, for the surgeons to clearly see the surgical area. Then ensure the stirrups are properly adjusted and padded to minimize pressure to the legs and prevent nerve damage. So since surgery may take time, so we have to ensure that the stirrups are properly adjusted and the patient is properly positioned. Secure the patient with safety tape or blanket to prevent moving during the procedure. So in order to minimize risk and prevent accidents, we need to ensure that the patient uh, is safely strapped through the stirrups. So, then continuously monitor the patient vital signs all throughout the procedure. Making sure that irregular vital signs will be monitored and reported. Then inspect the skin on the legs, particularly skin in the stirrups. So since the surgery may take a long time, skin rashes may be able to develop. So we have to make sure that we should inspect the skin on the legs, especially the skin in the stirrups. Then maintain clear communication with the surgical team regarding the patient's condition during the procedure. So make sure that the vital signs that are beyond normal values will be reported through the surgical team. After procedure, assist inpatient repositioning to a more comfortable position after the procedure. Then monitor any effects of lithotomy position. So here are the type and site of the incision for hysterectomy. So we have here the abdominal, wherein the surgeon will have to do a horizontal cut on the abdomen. This is called the abdominal incision. Then the following are the different kinds of laparotomy done when doing a hysterectomy. So we have typical robotic, typical laparoscopic, dual port laparoscopic. Then we also have single port or the seals. Then we have here our case, the vaginal hysterectomy. So there are no indications of incisions there because usually for vaginal incision, the surgical site is in the outer vagina. So here are the skin preparation for vaginal hysterectomy. So first is the swabbing from inner uh, minora, then to majora, then outer, then the left, then the symphysis pubis, then vertical. The type of anesthesia that will be used in a vaginal hysterectomy is regional anesthesia via spinal route. And the anesthetic agent that will be used is bupivacaine. So here are the nursing responsibilities in administration of anesthesia. First is to review patient history prior to the surgery and perform physical assessment for issues that could affect administration. So we have to make sure that the patient will be safe after the administration of anesthesia. Then ensure the patient know the procedure along with benefits, risk, and collect informed consent. So it is one of our nursing responsibilities to collect informed consent. And while we are at it, we should educate the patient of what would be happening during the procedure. This can help reduce anxiety before the procedure. Double check the medication order and verify the correct dosage, route, concentration, and patient. So we have to make sure that the right medication will be given to the right person. Continue monitoring vital signs all throughout the procedure. So again, watch all the vital signs that are beyond normal values. Assess for pain, discomfort, and any side effects on the patient during post-op. So during after the procedure, we still have to make sure that the patient is safe. Document the administration of bupivacaine along with the route, the vital signs, side effects, observe, and time. So we always have to document. So because a a nursing process that are not documented means we did not do it. So here are the regular instruments used in our case study, its usage, and the specific tissues involved. First is towel clips, to secure drapes or towel. Then mosquito curve and straight, so it allows access to deep structures, clamps, vessel, or tissues. So this definition can actually be, we can also actually involve the other clamps that are used in the procedure as well, just as the Alice clamp. Specific tissues involved, we have here the vessel, vagina, cervix, and connective tissues. Then liver retractor or retractors in general. So retractors are generally used to expose deeper structure. Tissues involved, skin, fat, muscles, and organ. Scalpel. Scalpel is used to make incisions on skin or tissue to gain access to deeper organs. Next is vaginal retractor. So here are the special instrument used during our procedure. So vaginal retractor dilates vaginal wall. So specific tissues involved will be vaginal wall. Yankauer suction tip. It maintains clear surgical field. Tissues involved will be blood and bodily fluids. Cautery. Cautery manages cuts on tissues using coagulation. So tissues involved will be ligaments and cervix. So here are the name and size of the suture used in our case study. The tissues involved with this, whether it is absorbable or non-absorbable, and the suturing technique used. So 2O Vicryl is used in the peritoneum. It is absorbable, and the suturing technique used is continuous. So 3O Vicryl is used in the muscles. It is absorbable, and the suturing technique used is interrupted. 3O Monocryl is used in the fascia. It is absorbable and continuous. So 3O Monocryl is also used in the subcutaneous and the skin. It is absorbable, and also the suturing technique used is still continuous.
Okay, so let's proceed to the immediate post-operative nursing care. Our problem number one is post-operative pain. Number one, administration of analgesics. Analgesics reduce the negative consequence of acute post-surgical pain and helps maintain transition smoothly back to normal function. Number two, assess of pain. Poorly managed post-operative pain can impair surgical outcomes. It may become chronic pain, which can result in a prolonged hospital stay. Number three, non-pharmacological pain management technique. Electrical stimulation techniques can help relieve pain, including chronic pain, post-operative pain, and musculoskeletal pain. Number four, proper nutrition. Proper healthy diet can help reduce inflammation, support tissue repairs, and optimize bodily functions positively influences pain levels. And number five, educate patient about pain management. Patient needs to make health-related decision and manage their health before and after surgery for optimal recovery. For our problem number two, risk for infection. Number one, monitor signs of infection. Early identification of infection allows prompt treatment. So mas madali nating malalaman yung sign, mas madali nating magagamot yung infection na yun. Number two, assess for patient risk factors. Risk factors represent compromise of body's physical defenses and potential source of infection. Number three, observe hand washing and aseptic techniques. Hand washing and aseptic technique reduces likelihood of transmitting pathogens to patient that cause infection. Number four, teach the patient and family signs and symptoms of infection. Recognition of early signs of infection calls for prompt treatment. So, pag alam ng family kung ano yung mga sign and symptoms, mas madali nilang maiintindihan at mas madali nilang malalaman yung mga. Our problem number four is risk for hemorrhage. Number one, assess patient medical history for risk factors or current conditions that risks bleeding for patient. Appropriate preventive measure can be implemented by identifying potential risk of bleeding. Early detection can prevent complication, especially for most operative patients who are in risk of bleeding. Kagaya ng sinabi ko kanina, pag mas madaling malalaman yung pinagmulan, mas madali siyang magagamot. So, number two, review patient medication for drugs that can compromise homeostasis, such as coagulants, NSAIDs, or chemotherapy. These certain types of drugs compromises body's ability to clot, increasing risk of bleeding. Number three, continuously monitor vital signs, especially blood pressure and respiratory rate. Early signs of bleeding are tachycardia and hypotension. That's why dapat lagi tayo nagte-take and nagmo-monitor ng vital signs. Educate patients about appropriate risk reduction. Using precautionary measures prevent tissue trauma and reduces risk of bleeding. And administer reversal agent or blood products as ordered. For patient on coagulation meds, reversal agents may be ordered if there is a current bleeding emergency. And for our problem number 4, urinary retention. Number 1, monitor patient's voiding pattern, intake and output. So, dapat lagi natin yan monitor. Number 2, catheterized patient. Catheterization is important as part of post-anesthetic care of patients. If necessary, ensure catheterization occurs per health care provider's order. So, kapag pag-order lang ng doktor or ng mga nurse na maglalagay ng catheter, dun lang tayo maglalagay. So, number 3, provide catheter care. So, syempre, kapag naglagay ka ng catheter, kailangan natin siyang panatilihing malinis at okay. Appropriate catheter care will decrease the risk of potential infection, ma-decrease yung risk ng potential infection, and which can further contribute to urinary retention. Kapag hindi natin malinis or napanatiling malinis, pwede siyang maging urinary retention. So, dapat lagi siyang malinis. Maintain patency of any indwelling catheter. So, dapat lagi nating titingnan yung tube ng ating catheter kung naka-straight pa siya kasi kapag may kink, it can prevent the catheter from working properly and the bladder from draining efficiently. Monitor for kinks and ensure the catheter tubing is in position to allow for appropriate drainage of urine. So, dapat lagi naka-straight. And for our problem number 5, impaired physical mobility, number 1, take note of prescribed movement limitations. So, kapag after ng post-surgical, dapat ay limitado lang yung mga galaw natin kasi maraming pwedeng mangyari. Number 2, assess patient strength and range of motion. So, dapat lagi natin ina-assess yan para makita natin kung may improvement na ba, kung may nangyari na ba, gano'n. Number 3, um, gather the equipment needed. So, dapat lagi nakalagay. Number 4, assess for lack of appropriate absorbent and yun lang. So, that's all. That's all. Thank you.